Hello everyone, welcome back to SwitchUp. It's only Sunday night again, isn't it? What have you been playing this weekend? Hopefully some nice games. And a congratulations to this week's free game winner. Here was your winning comment. It was absolutely delightful. Delightfully normal. Sorry, every week there's a few people in the comments that get really confused. And, well, it is a bit confusing, isn't it? Right, we are going to look at the most huge Nintendo Switch sales this week. Are the games huge? Probably not. But are there huge discounts? Yes, definitely. And hopefully you find something in here to bolster your faltering backlog after you manage to complete all of those games. Yeah. Save yourself 10% on any of these games using code SwitchUp over at switchup.gg, where you can get your eShop credit reduced. Alright, what are the best games on sale this week? Followed by our new segment. Well, let's find out. This episode was sponsored by Pocket Champs, and if you want to support the channel then you can download this one completely free on iOS and Android. There's a link in the description and the top pin comment. Now, champs are small creatures which you can train up. They can then take part in several different activities, racing and competing against other champs from around the world with a global leaderboard, and you can also set them to be training while you're away. Those races can be watched, so you can see if your efforts paid off, and you can actually equip them with different gadgets to hopefully enable them to perform a little bit better. The champs themselves can be fully customized, and there are a ton of different places to discover and locations to explore. And coaching your champs to unlock their full potential is really important. By selecting the right training for the upcoming races, you have to strategize through looking at the different worlds and choosing those gadgets. And then obviously, as we know, with any good trainer, you've then got to trust your champ. Sit back and watch them race and hopefully win. This one's really accessible, it's easy to pick up and play, and I like the fact you can train them up while you're away. Plus, it's a nice one for my daughter and I to play together. For our partnership, they're giving away a starter pack with 1,100 gems to new players. Just click the link or use the QR code you can see on the screen, and that'll be automatically added to your account on September the 4th. That reward is worth $9.99, but it is only available until September the 3rd, so you better be quick. You can download Pocket Champs from the link in the description, which, as I said at the start, really helps us out. First up, with the release of the massive update 4.4 on Nintendo Switch's version of No Man's Sky, which should be live for most of you in the next day or so, they've brought the price right down. Now, if you've not played No Man's Sky before, it's not quite the game it once was, and that's not a bad thing. It's been added to constantly with new free updates, with the latest one called Echoes adding in a whole new storyline and a load of new content. But it's a sandbox space simulator with an entire galaxy of stars to visit. There are other players out there building on these planets as well, and there is a chance that you'll come across their bases or their named planets and species. The Switch version will eventually get the multiplayer, which I'm really looking forward to, but even without it, you've got the potential for hundreds if not thousands of hours of content. And as I say, you really should look into all the different things you can do with base building. There are loads of different ways that you can play the game, from a survival mode to creative, and at half price, for space fans like myself, you are going to absolutely lap this one up. That sale goes on until September the 6th. Moonscars was broken at launch. It had bugs in it that kept crashing me to desktop, but then we revisited it a few times in our all patched up series, and it's now in a pretty decent state. I do love this almost monochromatic art style. It's an action game that has some Metroidvania elements to it, with a little sprinkling of Soulsy combat. I think it's quite clear that it took inspiration from some classics like Blasphemous. I don't think it's quite as good as those games, but yeah, it is still worth it for this price. It's down 30% until September the 3rd. Raji, an ancient epic from Nodding Heads Games, and I believe it was created by an Indian team and received quite a lot of praise when it came out, but they added in a big old update that actually I haven't revisited. I mean, I've played it, but I haven't gone back and added it to an all patched up episode, so I really should. But you wouldn't think it. The combat almost plays out like a God of War game, and the storyline centers on a brother and sister who are separated by some demons attacking. It's good, and it's better than it was at launch. So for about £7, 66% off, it might be a nice little almost hidden gem for some of you. That sale goes on until September the 16th. The Last Campfire was so random when it released from Hello Games, and I think for that reason it got a bit overlooked when it first came out. I don't think it is now. I think most people have played it and really enjoy it. But it's a top-down adventure puzzle platformer with a really nice little story. And I think it was Hello Games almost published this one, didn't they? And it was created by a small studio called Lost Winds. But it has some really nice visual storytelling. I seem to remember the giant toad in the lake. And then the first time you get your little boat and row yourself up that stream. It's also got a cracking soundtrack, and for £2, well, £2.69, that's 80% off, and that sale goes on until September the 6th. Superland is excellent. I think I first played it on my Steam Deck, and then I saw it was out on Switch, and I think I picked it up in a sale maybe about a year ago. It's down 40% at the moment. It's developed by Supra Games and published by Humble Games, and it's an open world puzzle action platformer. For whatever reason, some of my favourite games seem to have that sandbox feel to it. I remember reading an article not long ago actually, and it said that in like 2025 all games will be sandboxes, and I thought that's just not true. It's just not going to happen. And their argument was that, you know, you see it with things like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and that games are being pushed more and more in that direction. But I just think it's a bit of a silly argument really. I think there's more than enough space for different genres and different styles, and I don't think everything has to go sandbox. But Superland does it really nicely in that the tools it gives you, you never feel like there's something you can't overcome with them. And there's a few surprises in there as well, like when you switch to first person combat. A good game. It fits into 4.6 gigs. It's quite long as well, about 15 to 20 hours at least. And that sale goes on until September 3rd. One of my favourite roguelites that actually I definitely should have put it in our best roguelites list we did the other day, but I think it made the previous one, so I'll let myself off. Now let me just check my daughter isn't in the room. No, we're good. It's Void Bastards. Now Void Bastards is 70% off until September the 3rd, and I think if you took Red Dwarf, and if you don't know what Red Dwarf is, oh my goodness, you need to get onto YouTube, type in, or get onto YouTube, you probably are already on YouTube, type in Red Dwarf and watch a little snippet of the UK series. It's absolutely brilliant. If you don't do that, you're a smeg, head, if you know, you know. But this sees you moving between the galaxy, wow, imagine that, sees you moving through the galaxy, and you're choosing your next location, boarding ships, taking that risk reward factor that is so prevalent in many roguelites, getting loads of loot, selling it in the shop and moving further on and hoping you don't perish. But it's just done in such a cool way. I love the way the enemies talk between themselves. I'm having a real mare, aren't I, with my grammar today. Talk between themselves. I don't even know what that would look like. Talk among themselves would be a bit more appropriate. But yeah, this one is 70% off. A very enjoyable game. I highly recommend it. For some reason, when a game has music in it, it tends to tank. Unless it's called Parappa the Rapper, and then it gets legendary status. Kick, punch, it's all in the mind. If you're going to test me, I'm sure you'll find, oh man, it's all still in there. Yes. But Soundfall is actually a dungeon crawler with a musical element to it, and it's way more fun than it should be. It also does have 1 to 4 player multiplayer, both on and offline, and 5 different characters that you can choose from, but a dungeon crawler needs good loot, and this one thrives in that area. There are 500 different pieces to choose and equip in different ways. Now, the musical element, I think, if I remember rightly, is that you're playing in time with the beat, and that will do more damage. Yeah, that's it. You have to like attack in time with the beat to do more damage, and you can do double beat, so if it's like every 4 you can do every 8 and 16. I am not a musician, as you can probably tell, but it's really good. Yeah, I think you might enjoy this one. That's 2.4 gigs, and again, a nice chunky one, 15 to 20 hours. I would selfishly like you all to buy Beyond a Steel Sky because I want a sequel. Now, hopefully a lot of you played Beneath a Steel Sky when you were younger. It was obviously developed by Revolution Software, and I never expected that we would have a sequel, but I'm so glad that we have. In terms of today's modern gaming, it maybe doesn't live up in a few areas. It can be a bit slower paced, but they did try a few new things, like it has this hacking mechanic that essentially uses almost algorithms, so you can reprogram like the drinks machine to go berserk when someone orders a drink, and then that might solve a puzzle in a different area. It has all your favourite characters. Robert Foster's here, Joey the robot. Oh man, just talking about it is I'm gonna have to go back and do another playthrough. I wouldn't say the storyline's quite as iconic as the first, but I mean that goes without saying. You head into anything with that much nostalgia and it just becomes really difficult to recreate it. Now, having said that, if I sit my daughter down to play through this, she will probably have lifelong memories because it is really quite a funny game. As far as completion times, about 10 to 15 hours and a 3.2 gigabyte download. That one for Beyond a Steel Sky goes on until September the 10th. I don't think I need to give much introduction to Dredge. It came out, a month or 2 back, and everyone that plays it absolutely loves it. You're in this slightly unusual small town. It has a Lovecraftian feel to it, and you have to go out trawling. Now, the weirdness comes because at night, essentially, you can get very lost, and it goes very dark, and also some unusual creatures and things come out. But you'll have missions to get certain items, and some of those can only be found at night. And I'm not really doing it justice. You should definitely go and watch Glen's review of it. He thought it was amazing. Now it's 20% off at the moment, which doesn't seem like a huge discount, but it is one of those that's more than worth it at full price. It was developed by Black Salt Games, and there is a DLC as well. So if you've already got the base game, maybe consider picking up that DLC, which is called Blackstone Key. That sale goes on until September the 6th. PC gamers, you're going to know this one already, or hopefully you will, if you're a strategy fan, and it's Crying Suns. It's currently half price on Switch. That's £9.74, which is an absolute bargain for what is a brilliant strategy game. It was developed by AltShift, and you can probably hear my excitement because it is really nice finding the little gems on the eShop sometimes. Now, although it's a procedurally generated universe, there are over 300 different unique story events that you can discover, and that story is structured over 6 chapters, but it has this hexagonal grid-based combat system that is really compelling, and it works really nicely. The whole thing's tied together with a stunning art style, in my opinion. It's got a very dark atmosphere. I mean, it literally says as much on the blurb, but it's not quite unnerving. Do you remember the film Event Horizon? Before it all goes absolutely bonkers. There's just an atmosphere, and yeah, this kind of gives me that vibe. But look, it's not horror, but something about it. On that subject, I think I could sit in a room and just talk to myself forever. But I was reading the other day that they've started to basically sign people up who are going to go on this one-way trip to Mars. And some of them are young, with families and things like that. And it's going to be a one-way trip. Would you do that? Would you go on a one-way trip to Mars? Man, fair play, if that's what you want to do. But I'd rather head down the chippy and get a Savaloy, to be honest. Might not be as memorable, but taste better. Which takes me on to my favourite part of the week, and it's the Savaloy selection, or as our South African editor Jared would say, here we go, vet koek, which apparently is some South African equivalent. But we had the other equivalents last week with a nice little popping sound. Nice one, Jared. Good editing skills. GG. And here are a selection of very cheaply priced games that are less than the price of a vet koek. Oh, what am I doing? Okay. First up then, we have Glyph. This is 80% off. I remember seeing a review of Nintendo Life and being like, oh wow, this looks really good. Had a little go, I was like, this is really good, really fun. There are over 80 different levels here. There are time trials. It's got that pure platforming feel where everything's precise and feels amazing. Then you've got Cyber Protocol, which is what would you call it? I don't even know how to describe some games. It's like an arcade puzzler, which doesn't sound very good to me. If I heard arcade puzzler, I'd be like, nah. But it's one of those that it's really easy to play, but also very, very addictive. It looks like a mad version of Pac-Man, but it's not at all. You're trying to collect these things. It's got this banging synthwave soundtrack, and you can kind of fire through the first few levels, and it just gets more and more tricky, but yeah, really compulsive. The classic high score chaser with online leaderboards, if I remember correctly. And all of that for the bargain price of 90% off, so like 89 pence. I think we'll do, I think that'll be alright for the old Savaloys this week. Just a couple, because we had a few extras in the main list. Last but not least then this week, we have Ghost Song, which is 30% off. And this is one of those flawed gems. There's just a few things about it, like the movement and some of the difficulty spikes that didn't quite, but then there's also a lot of atmosphere. There's a lot of things to really like about this. Some games manage to capture that otherness, don't they? They set themselves on these alien planets, 9 times out of 10, and you don't feel anything. You're just kind of like, yeah, okay, brilliant. I'm on another alien planet. Happy days. Let's kill all the aliens. Blah-de-blah-de-blah. Bob's your uncle. Fanny's your aunt. I might as well be in Bognor Regis. But here, a combination of the weird music, the very unique art style, which I think is actually quite beautiful, and also the kind of grotesque, some of the more grotesque animations. It has that real sense of place. Now, if you like Metroidvanias, then you're going to enjoy this one a lot. But it is also difficult. It is tough. You'll die a lot. You'll get a bit frustrated. You might get a bit lost. But I still think it's worth pushing through. Even if I don't think it reaches its full potential. I think it's worth highlighting this small team. And I guess it can be our little indie pick of the week. A good game. It's 30% off, down to $11.19. There is also a physical as well. That sale goes on until September the 3rd. So that's it for this week. I should thank Pocket Champs, the sponsor of this episode, once again. Not because I'm contractually obliged to, but because I enjoy playing it with my daughter. And if you'd like to support the channel, all you need to do is click the link in the top pinned comment or the description, and that's literally like saying, thanks very much, Mark. You did a good job today. I appreciate it. Have a go as well. It's a right laugh, but be warned, it is a little bit addictive. But thanks to our Patreons, our members, all of you that support us just by your eyeballs watching these videos and your fingers tapping out comments. I salute you. For all things Switch all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers, guys. See ya!